What if I told you that your destiny isn't waiting for you, it's waiting on you? Not your thoughts, not your dreams, but your actions. You've read the books, heard the speeches, set the goals. But if you're still stuck, still circling the same results, it's not because you don't know enough. It's because you haven't moved yet. And today, we're going to change that starting now. Act as if success is inevitable. Most people act as though they are still trying to prove their worth, still testing whether things might work out, still waiting for some external sign to grant them permission to believe in the future. But herein lies the problem. When you act as if your results are still uncertain, you program your mind with the assumption that success is possible but not yet assured. And that very assumption becomes a self-imposed ceiling on your entire life. In contrast, there is a very small group of individuals who live by an entirely different principle. They behave as if all good things have already become their reality. They walk with the poise of those who've already arrived, speak the language of certainty, and make decisions with the clarity of someone free of doubt. For them, success isn't something possible, it's inevitable. Consequently, every action they take carries with it an undeniable force. They don't need evidence to believe. It is precisely their unwavering belief that creates the evidence itself. This isn't acting, nor is it self-deception. Rather, it's a higher level of consciousness where you cease merely reacting to reality and begin creating it instead. The human mind cannot differentiate between actual events and ideas consistently repeated with intense emotion. If you continuously live as though the best outcome has already occurred, your mind accepts it as reality. And once the mind is convinced, your entire nervous system, behavioral choices, energy signals, body language, and even the opportunities drawn to you all shift accordingly. Everything restructures itself around the conviction you broadcast. Imagine yourself as a job seeker. If you go into an interview with the attitude of desperately hoping to be chosen, your words will betray you, your posture will weaken, and subconsciously you'll emit a signal indicating that you need saving. But if you enter as someone certain of your worth, someone who isn't merely hoping but confidently selecting the right match, then the entire tone of the interaction changes. Others sense what remains unspoken. That's the strength of someone who lives as if success is inevitable. They have no need to impress, because their mere presence creates the impact. Such individuals aren't inherently more gifted than you. They have simply made a different decision. They chose belief as their starting point instead of waiting for it as an outcome. They understand that everything begins within. If inwardly you harbor doubt, the world reflects that doubt back at you. But if you are inwardly certain, the external world will gradually realign itself to mirror your inner conviction. You cannot completely control the world around you, but you can always control the inner position you occupy in any given situation. The issue is that most of us have been taught to wait until we see results, before believing to demand proof, before we dare to act. But that keeps you perpetually behind the curve of reality, always waiting for something to happen first before you allow yourself to believe. When the truth is, what you truly believe is precisely what you permit to manifest. Those who live from belief don't ignore challenges. They simply refuse to allow circumstances to define their worth. They choose a different script and fully embody it, even if no external validation has appeared yet. Even if external circumstances remain uncertain, even if visible evidence seems scarce. Real confidence does not stem from evidence. It emerges from internal clarity. When you are clear inside, your words carry weight, your steps become purposeful, and your decisions radiate strength. Others might not yet understand or believe in you, but they will clearly sense that you're not easily swayed, and that alone transforms every interaction. Those who live as though success is inevitable do not need to desperately control external conditions. They don't need to control because they've already mastered their internal frequency. Once you master your internal frequency, you master the flow of life itself. Every significant achievement begins with a quiet choice made deep within the mind. Make that choice now. Don't wait for guarantees. Don't seek approval. Don't chase after validation. Start living as though you've already arrived at your destination. Behave as though you've already been chosen. Make decisions as though everything is aligned in your favor. Not to force the universe to obey your will, but to synchronize yourself with what you genuinely desire. Once you align yourself with that frequency, you will no longer feel the need to chase after success. Instead, you'll become the kind of person success naturally seeks out. The brain can't tell real from imaginary when strong emotions are involved. Have you ever wondered why a dream can jolt you awake in the middle of the night, your heart racing, sweat dripping down your forehead, even though everything happened solely in your imagination? Why can a painful memory from years ago still bring tears to your eyes, even when the present moment is perfectly peaceful? And why can just one timely, positive thought revitalize you when you're at your most exhausted? The answer lies in something deceptively simple, yet immensely powerful. Your brain does not differentiate between reality and an image repeated often enough. With intense emotion, it lacks a filter to separate actual events from vividly imagined ones. It simply receives and responds. Because of this, you possess a creative power few ever fully recognize. Think about it carefully. If you consistently tell yourself you're not good enough, that things inevitably fall apart, or that nobody genuinely cares, what happens? Your brain doesn't argue back. It doesn't remind you that these negative thoughts are temporary illusions. Instead, it absorbs, internalizes, and begins to act as if they are reality. Conversely, if you passionately affirm to yourself that you are worthy, you're moving upward, and life is guiding you toward wonderful things your brain accepts that just as completely. And from there, true magic unfolds. You don't need to wait for circumstances to shift in order to feel differently. All you need to do is change the emotional connections attached to the images you hold within your mind. Emotion serves as the command code that imprints deeply into your subconscious. A phrase devoid of feeling is mere sound, but an affirmation infused with powerful emotions becomes a signal, a command, an internal truth, and ultimately, the external reality. The question then becomes, what are you repeating to yourself every single day? And what emotions accompany these repetitions? Most of us don't realize we are programming ourselves with limiting and impoverished scripts, not because they're true, but because they're familiar. You've heard them since childhood, you believe them due to past hurts, and eventually, you've mistakenly accepted them as truths. But if the brain doesn't differentiate between real and imaginary, why not rewrite its programming with something far more empowering? Why not choose a new, vivid, emotionally compelling image to launch the next chapter of your life? I don't need you to believe this immediately. I only ask you to try something. Recall a moment in your life when you felt exceptionally strong, truly free, deeply valuable, even if just briefly. Bring that moment vividly into your present awareness. Feel it in every cell. Place your hand gently on your heart and softly say, I remember who I am. Just that alone, and you'll sense something quietly shifting in your consciousness. That's precisely when you're rewriting subconscious codes. Repeat that feeling often enough, with enough presence and intensity, and your brain will accept it as your new reality. No proof required, no external validation necessary, just your authentic feeling. Here's the vital question I'd like you to reflect on right now. If your brain cannot tell real from imaginary when emotions run high enough, are you consciously using this principle to advance your dreams or allowing it to empower your fears? This isn't merely a theoretical question. It's existentially critical, because what you repeat today shapes the world you step into tomorrow. Answer honestly. And if you're still here, still reading these words, let me sincerely thank you for being present in this moment. Thank you for opening your heart to this profound truth. You have the power to rewrite your life by rewriting what you believe to be true. Never underestimate the thoughts whispered daily in your mind. Never underestimate the emotions you nurture when envisioning yourself. Because all of this creates your reality, not someday far away, but right now. Your brain only needs direction. You are the one who provides that direction, and you can start anew at any moment. All it takes is a stronger image, a more vibrant emotion, and the clear, unwavering decision that from today onward, you'll only program into your subconscious the reality you desire, not the scenarios you fear. You don't have to wait to see results, because results don't come to those who wait passively. They come to those who believe first. You can become that person now, right here, in this very moment. Faith is not a gift, but a skill to be built. Faith is not a gift granted to some while denied to others. It does not arrive randomly as a favor from fate. Faith is a spiritual structure, one that can be formed, cultivated, and strengthened through every small decision, every silent choice, every moment you choose to rise instead of give up. But because people often confuse emotion with structure, they believe faith must come from inspiration, that something extraordinary must occur before they have the right to believe. Yet the truth is the opposite. Faith is not a reaction. It is the origin. It does not arrive after everything is clear. It arrives when you choose to believe in the midst of uncertainty. And that choice is the most powerful act of creation you can make upon your reality. Every time you hold onto a noble thought in your mind while the world around you spins in chaos, you are laying another brick in the house of faith. Every time you continue moving forward in silence, unseen, unacknowledged, and misunderstood, you are reinforcing the foundation of an unshakable trust. Every time you act as though everything is working in your favor, even when the present feels like a blur, you are expanding the range and strength of your belief. Bit by bit, day by day, you create an inner space so stable that nothing external can shake it. A person of true faith never has to declare it. Their presence, their choices, their steadfastness, all are unmistakable proof of the faith they have forged over time. And the true essence of faith lies not in excitement, but in steadiness, unshaken by temporary outcomes. It is the capacity to remain clear-minded even when what you see does not yet reflect what you hope for. It is the strength to keep your spine straight when every outside voice insists you're wrong. It is the quiet resolve to act in alignment with what you know is right, even when you cannot yet explain why. Great individuals do not achieve extraordinary results because they are more inspired than others, but because they choose to live as though what they believe is already true, and then they allow life itself to confirm it over time. Faith needs no emotion, but emotion can help faith take root faster. When you pour deep feeling into the vision you believe in, you embed that vision into the subconscious, where it begins to operate like background code. And once an image has sunk into your inner framework, it begins to guide your behavior, your choices, your gaze, your words, and even the energetic field you emit each day. You won't need to pretend to be optimistic. When faith has become your foundation, certainty will radiate from your eyes. Calm will be present even in crisis. And strangely enough, when you no longer feel the need to prove anything, that's when results begin to show up faster than you imagined. Some may say that believing when nothing is certain is naive. But the truth is, everything you see today was once just an idea in someone's mind. No bridge built itself. No structure formed on its own. Before any action, there had to be a decision. Before the decision, an image. And to hold that image firm, there had to be faith. So belief is not naivety. Belief is the first step of all creation. Therefore, belief is a survival skill. Without faith, you can only repeat what has already been seen. With faith, you begin to step into uncharted territory. If you want to know the true level of your faith, don't check your feelings, check your actions. A person with real faith does not ask whether things will be okay. They ask, what must I do next? They do not wait to be inspired. They move. They commit. They prepare as though what they believe in is surely coming. And because they prepare, they are ready. Because they are ready, they receive. Because they receive, they become living confirmation of a higher principle, that the world reflects what you believe to be true, not what you wait to see before believing. So if today you feel your faith is not yet strong enough, that's perfectly fine. As long as you understand, it's not something you must wait for or beg for. It is something you can actively build, day by day, action by action, every time you choose to stand firm instead of wavering. Faith does not arrive to convince you. It arrives to be the proof that you have convinced yourself you are ready for a new reality. And you begin that journey the moment you stop asking, "Can I?" and begin living as though you are the one who will. No one else can do that for you. But once you do, the entire world will begin to shift. Not because it suddenly favors you, but because you have stepped out of the role of victim and into the role of true creator. And that is the most natural role your soul was ever meant to play. You are the author of your life script. No one can play the lead role in your life unless you grant them that role. No one can define who you are unless you remain silent long enough for their assigned role to become your reality. And no circumstance is powerful enough to define you unless you agree to follow the script it hands you. What matters most is not what you have experienced, but what you choose to rewrite. You have not been assigned a role, you have chosen it. And the role you choose determines the entire setting in which you live. The human mind is a vast stage upon which hundreds of psychological characters compete for attention. Sometimes you play the insecure one, sometimes the rebel, at other times the savior, or perhaps the victim. None of these roles are inherently wrong, but without awareness, they begin writing their own script, forcing you into narratives that do not belong to you. And the greatest tragedy is that most people never ask themselves the essential questions: who wrote this script? Why do I live as though everything is predetermined? Why do I react as if I have no choice? In truth, you always have a choice, and your greatest choice is the freedom to rewrite the role you are playing. Every day when you awaken, you face a fresh blank page. You can keep retyping old lines, repeating old patterns, following old reflexes, or you can choose to begin a new chapter. You can tell yourself that from this day forward, you are no longer someone waiting for validation, no longer someone striving to prove your worth, no longer someone responding out of habit. You choose to appear as a new character, not because you are pretending, but because you have awakened from the old role. True scriptwriters do not merely craft dialogues. They determine the atmosphere, the context, the themes, and the messages of the entire story. And you become that writer the moment you reclaim the pen from the unconscious habits that have guided you for so many years. What makes a powerful story is not the past of a character, but the journey they choose next. What you have gone through does not determine the remainder of your narrative unless you continue to repeat it. You do not have to erase your memories. You simply need to stop defining yourself by them. The awakened do not dwell within memories. They use memories as material to write new chapters with deeper meaning. And that new chapter only begins when you cease living by old dialogues. You do not have to wait for everything to become perfect before rewriting your role. On the contrary, precisely when things seem unclear, you have your greatest opportunity to choose anew the character you will become. No one writes a script while the lights blaze on stage. All significant decisions are made backstage, in the silent conversations you hold with yourself. You discern which roles now align with your inner growth and which no longer reflect your true nature. You gracefully withdraw from old parts and step into a fresh presence, without announcement, explanation, or permission. Simply by your choosing, life itself will rewrite the entire corresponding setting. Have you ever witnessed someone walk into a room and instantly capture everyone's attention? They might not be the most beautiful, intelligent, or affluent, yet one thing is clear. They know exactly what role they are playing, and they embody it fully. They never have to proclaim, "I am important," because their presence naturally conveys significance. They need not shout, "I am confident," because their every step quietly affirms it. They never wait to be invited onto the stage, for they know they are the stage itself. This is not arrogance, it is clarity. And clarity always carries immense weight. If you do not write your script, someone else will write it for you. If you do not actively choose your role, circumstances will impose one upon you, gradually causing you to forget your true self. But the very instant you pause, observe, and ask yourself, does this role still serve my growth? In that moment, you have already begun rewriting the next chapter. No noise is necessary. No declarations are needed. The most profound transformations always happen in silence. And from there, the whole story shifts. You are not the result of a predetermined script. You are the editor, the director, and the lead actor all at once. When you accept the pen once again, life can do nothing but turn the page, not because you control every circumstance, but because you have chosen to show up as the person responsible for every word written in your life's journey. And this role no one but you can ever fulfill completely. Certainty dispels fear, not resistance. Fear does not disappear when you try to deny it, suppress it, or pretend it doesn't exist. Fear only fades when you face it with a presence that is grounded, clear, and defined enough that it can no longer find a place to cling. Fear does not feed on truth, it feeds on ambiguity. The more you resist it, the more you struggle. The stronger it becomes in the shadows. But the moment you stop, stand firm, and show up as someone who knows who they are, the darkness of fear finds no shelter. Certainty is not loud, but it has weight. And it is that weight which causes restless energies to quietly dissolve. People often think that to eliminate fear, they must control everything. They believe they need to know the outcome to ensure things unfold according to plan. But the more they try to control, the more anxious they become. Because deep down, they know they cannot hold everything in their hands. And it is this awareness that gives rise to anxiety, doubt, and fear. Yet what they were never taught is this: you do not need to control everything to live without fear. You need only to take charge of one thing: your own presence. When you show up with a clear mind, a steady heart, and an undivided inner self, no amount of external chaos has the power to shake you. Certainty does not come from knowing what will happen. It comes from knowing who you are when it does. A person with true certainty is not someone skilled in calculations, but someone whose spiritual spine does not bend under temporary turbulence. They do not react with defense, but with clarity. They do not lose their bearings when faced with challenge, because they never handed their direction over to circumstance. They understand that everything on the outside is only a passing display, while the core within is the true anchor. And because they live from that anchor, they have no need to force strength. They only need to be present. And that presence alone is enough to quiet the instability around them. Have you ever seen someone walk into a room and, without saying a word, bring calm to everything around them? That is the power of someone who lives in certainty. They do not impose, argue, or try to convince, but the energy they carry makes others feel safe, grounded, and awake. And the only reason that happens is because they have already released fear within themselves. They don't need to control others. They don't need to prove anything. They don't need to claim to be right, because they know that what truly needs to be held steady is not out there, but in the quality of presence they bring. Resistance is how an unripe mind reacts to what it does not understand. But true maturity is not found in opposition. It is found in the ability to remain peaceful in the middle of the storm. When you fight fear, you confirm its power. When you fear fear, you give it space to exist. But when you acknowledge it, observe it without getting swept away, you reclaim your center. And from that center, everything becomes clear. Not because you have changed the world, but because you've stopped being pulled by the noise of the world. There is a great difference between someone who tries to appear strong and someone who is truly grounded. Those who try to appear strong are easily offended, easily angered, and easily disoriented when things go off script. They rest their power on external conditions. But those who are truly grounded are different. They do not react, they choose. They do not let fear determine their actions, they allow clarity to lead. And when they must face difficulty, they do not hide emotion, but neither do they let emotion take the reins. That is the difference between control and mastery. When you truly understand that nothing external lies beyond your inner power of choice, you will stop resisting. You will no longer strive to become someone else. You will simply return to your deepest essence. And that essence does not fear. It does not worry. It does not doubt. It is clear, whole, and at peace. Certainty does not come from outside. It comes from a profound inner acceptance that you do not need to control everything, but you can choose how to show up in the midst of it all. And once you show up in this way, fear has no place to stand. Not because you've destroyed it, but because you no longer feed it. You do not fear what is yet to come. You do not regret what is past. You do not cling to what is fleeting. You live fully in each moment, like someone who has seen for themselves that truth never harms, only illusions cause us to tremble. And when the light of truth appears, the darkness vanishes on its own, no battle required. That is how certainty dispels fear not by force, but through the fullness of your presence. Live from vision, not from current conditions. Fear does not vanish because you shout it down, nor does it retreat because you resist with all your might. Fear dissolves only when you stop being shaken. When you show up with a presence that is deep enough, real enough, and clear enough, fear has nowhere left to cling. It can only survive in an atmosphere of confusion, doubt, and disconnection from your true nature. What strengthens fear is not the situation itself, but the lack of inner stability in the one facing it. The truth is, no one taught you how to stand firm. You were taught how to react, how to resist, how to mask your vulnerability. But no one told you that if you simply hold your presence steady, the noise around you will quiet on its own. Resistance is the reflex of a mind that has not yet learned how to be still. Every time you resist, you're signaling that you believe the other has power over you. But when you simply breathe, when you just stand there in full awareness, no running, no dodging, no posturing, that thing loses its strength. Certainty is the only force that can dissolve fear, because it does not need to win in order to exist. We grow up in a world that equates resistance with power. We are taught to fight, to respond quickly, to push away what disturbs us. But that is not freedom. That is the constant operation of an ego, desperate to prove it is not weak. And paradoxically, the more you resist, the more that ego expands, and the more fear multiplies. Because you are always controlled by what you still react to. The more you lose your composure, the more you lose your power to choose. Certainty does not mean you're always strong, never trembling, or free from emotion. It means that even as emotion arises, you still hold space for truth. You don't act from a triggered place, but from the place that has calmed, observed, and understood what is unfolding. From that place, you are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are the one making a choice. And a choice made from peace has more power than 1,000 reactions made from panic. You do not need to eliminate all fear in order to live. You only need to stop letting it become the operating center of your inner life. Fear will visit, it will test you, it will try to slip through the cracks that haven't yet healed. But when you know this is natural, and you neither fight it nor feed it, it subsides on its own. You don't have to scream to prove you're okay. You only have to be still, and your presence alone will cause all mental disturbance to withdraw like a receding tide. When you no longer feel the need to argue, to prove right or wrong, or to fear being misunderstood, you've entered the realm of certainty. In that space, you don't need to win in order to feel safe. Because you now understand that what you're holding on to is the truth. And truth does not require applause to endure. It only requires that you not betray it. Each time you stand on the side of the truth within you, even if no one understands, even when conditions are against you, you are standing on a foundation stronger than any argument. And that certainty is what makes you free. There is a deep silence in those who understand this law. They no longer run from challenge. They look it in the eye as a natural part of growing. They no longer brace themselves to defend because they are already anchored on an unshakable ground. They can hear every opinion, but are not pulled by them. They can receive every criticism, but do not respond from a wounded place. That's why they walk without hurry, speak without strain, and live without needing to prove. Certainty cannot be borrowed. It is the result of living truthfully, uprightly, and with discipline. Each time you do not react according to old patterns, you lay another brick in the house of certainty. Each time you choose silence over argument, you fortify an invisible but immovable foundation. And one day, when the real storm comes, you will find that you are no longer swept away. Not because the storm has weakened, but because you have grown stronger from within. Fear has never held true power. It only seems strong when you have nothing firm to place your trust in. But once you anchor your faith in that which is unchanging, in the deep and steady truth within you that has long been forgotten, then all fear is revealed as temporary. And when you are no longer led by the temporary, you no longer need to fight. You simply keep walking as if you already know the way. And that presence calms everything, not by force, not by argument, but by the unshakable truth you have chosen to live from. Success comes to those who act with resolve. Success does not favor those with the most reasons, nor does it prioritize those with the most opportunities. Success always comes to those who act decisively, not because they are without fear, doubt, or mistakes, but because they do not wait for perfection to begin. In a world of procrastinators, the decisive become rare and valuable, for they do not live by inspiration, but by an inner commitment made long before. And it is that commitment that moves them to act even when the external world is not aligned, even when emotions are not ready, even when the outcome remains unclear. Decisive action is not recklessness. It is not based on luck or impulsive urges. Decisive action arises when you have reflected, when you clearly see what you want, and when you no longer question the worth of the path you are on. The decisive do not leap at every opportunity, but once they choose, they do not turn back. They do not wait for approval. Do not seek more signs. Do not compare themselves to others. They move because they are clear, and that clarity is power. You can read all the books you want, take all the courses, make all the plans, but if you do not act with resolve, your knowledge will remain unused potential. Life does not reward those who know the most. It rewards those who do enough. And more often than not, the difference between those who succeed and those who repeat failure lies not in talent, but in the decision to act while others hesitate. The decisive do not act because they are certain of success. They act because they have chosen not to be imprisoned by hesitation. Every time you delay, you are not just losing time, you are losing yourself. Every time you ask too many people, you drain your energy for doubts that do not serve you. But the moment you pause, face forward, and do what must be done no matter how small you begin to change, transformation does not come from grand gestures. It comes from your refusal to betray what you already know in your heart. There are people who only need to look into your eyes to know you don't believe what you say. And there are others who need not say a word. Just by standing there, you believe they'll do what they promised. What creates conviction is not the promise, but the energy behind the action. And that energy is only present when you act decisively, not wavering among options, not second-guessing yourself every day. When you believe in yourself, the world begins to adjust its feedback. But when you wait for the world to believe in you first, you've already surrendered your power. The decisive are not always right, but they are always moving. And each step gives them more data, more experience, more truth to refine their path. The hesitant do not make mistakes, but they also go nowhere. They remain at the starting line, their minds exhausted from overthinking, yet never sure enough to leap. What they don't realize is that confidence doesn't come first, it comes after action. You don't wait to be strong before you begin. You begin, and then you become strong. If there is one thing you can do to change your destiny, it is to learn to decide and commit fully to that decision through action. Once you choose, let the rest of your thoughts fall away. Stop reevaluating. Don't retreat just because results haven't shown up. Wholehearted action doesn't mean doing something massive. It means doing something small with your whole being. Resolve does not come from aggression. It comes from clarity, sustained by discipline and inner strength. You don't need to know every step. You only need to know the next step. And when you take that step with clarity, the next one will appear. The entire path does not need to be lit just enough light where you are standing. And you are the one holding the lantern. No one can act with resolve for you. No one can walk the road you're being called to. And no one is responsible for your delay but you. Success does not choose the most talented. It chooses the most ready. And readiness is always revealed through action. No one sees what's inside of you, but your action speaks louder than anything you could say. Action is the most living form of prayer. It is your declaration to the universe. I have chosen, and I am ready to pay the price for what I've chosen. In a world constantly shifting, the decisive do not need to know the future. They only need to be honest in the present. When you act with resolve, you do not need to posture or pretend to be strong. Your presence is already clear enough for others to feel. And when you walk with commitment, with understanding, with responsibility, each step you take alters the way life responds. You are not chasing success. You are becoming a space where success has no choice but to appear. No need to rush, no need to hesitate. Simply act as though you are already the version of yourself you long to be. And that very act will take you to a place the hesitant will never reach. From chasing to becoming magnetic. What you chase will continue to elude you until you change your posture. When you step into life with the energy of lack, urgency, or desperation, you're broadcasting the message that you are not whole. And the truth is, whatever comes to someone in lack will only come to affirm the lack. The more you chase, the more you confirm you don't yet have. And life, which does not respond to words but to vibration, will reflect back outcomes that match the frequency you carry. That's why the more desperately you cling to someone, the more distant they become. The more eagerly you try to prove something, the less people believe you, because you are acting as though you never had that value to begin with. And a lack of confidence cannot be hidden behind a smile or covered with words it's felt in every glance, every movement, every silence. True transformation begins when you stop chasing and start becoming. Instead of trying to get something, you turn inward and become the version of you who naturally has it. It's no longer a pursuit or a waiting game. It is a quiet, grounded state of being that needs no validation. You're no longer rushing to impress, nor are you afraid of someone walking away, because you understand that what you attract doesn't come from effortful striving, but from the essence you have chosen to live in. And from that moment on, you become different. The magnetic person is not the one trying to stand out. They don't overdo, overspeak, or dominate every conversation. They have a presence that lingers, even when they're not trying to be noticed. Because they don't live for recognition, they live as a natural expression of what they believe to be true. And truth needs no advertisement. It renders others speechless when they recognize it. If you're exhausted from constantly trying to prove yourself, perhaps you're facing the wrong direction. Those who live in alignment don't strive to become anything. They simply are. And from that state of being, everything around them rearranges itself. No one can teach you how to truly attract because it's not a strategy, it's a byproduct. when you heal the old beliefs, when you no longer operate from the fear of abandonment or the hunger for approval, you begin to attract what matches your maturity. The one who is still lacking finds silence threatening. The one who is whole sees silence as power. The one who is still becoming rushes to explain, to justify, to be heard. The one who already is simply watches, is present, and lets truth speak for itself. Because they know that whatever you chase will run from you, but what you become, no one can take from you. Nothing blocks your path like the mindset of pursuit. It pulls you out of your center, robs you of presence, and clouds your ability to see what truly belongs to you. You stop choosing, you start reacting. And when you react, you grow weak. You no longer create waves, you merely get swept away by them. But the moment you pause, reset your state, and ask yourself again, you'll realize you don't need to chase. You only need to stand firmer in what you already know to be true. Magnetic people do not come to compete for attention. They arrive as living proof of clarity, wholeness, and self-possession. And precisely because they need nothing from you, you want to be near them. They make you feel free, not pressured, not manipulated, not pulled by artificial lack. You don't need to change who you are to become magnetic. You only need to release everything you once believed you had to have, to do, or to pretend. You don't need to fake confidence. You only need to stop criticizing yourself in your mind. You don't need to do more. You only need to show up more deeply. And the paradox is when you let go of the need to attract, that is when true attraction begins. Every change starts from within. No one can hand you value you've never claimed for yourself. No one can recognize what you don't yet believe is real. So instead of chasing, slow down, step by step, choice by choice, action by action, let it all say that you are already the version you're seeking. Not through words, but through embodied truth. Success, love, opportunity, respect, they are all natural outcomes of the state you radiate. Stop being the seeker. Start living as the one who already has. No pressure, no pretense. Just radical honesty with yourself. And from there, what's meant to come will arrive not because you chased it, but because you became it. True faith is what creates the evidence. Faith is not what you tell others. It is not a fleeting feeling that comes when everything is going well. True faith is what you live with when no one is cheering you on, when no one is validating your path, when there is no visible proof that success is on its way. And it is precisely in those moments when you choose to keep acting as though what you believe is already true that you begin creating the evidence. Most people wait to see before they believe. But those who create great outcomes in life do not live in that order. They believe first, then act from that belief. And it is their action that brings the result. If you wait for the outside world to confirm what you're pursuing is right, you will always be ruled by circumstance. Because evidence does not appear for the one who merely waits. Evidence arrives as a reward for loyalty to what no one else can yet see. It comes to the one who sows even when the ground is still dry. It comes to the one who continues walking even when the path has not yet opened. You don't need massive faith to begin. You only need enough faith to take one step, and that step will reinforce your faith. From there, the next step will become clearer. This is not mysticism, it is a principle. Your mind needs to be led, not left to wait. When you choose something and commit to it, the outer world begins shifting to match the frequency within you. But if you remain uncertain, you send out mixed signals, and the world returns mixed, inconsistent feedback. Faith doesn't shout, but it is unmistakably clear. It doesn't need to explain itself, yet it quietly governs every choice, every word, and every ounce of energy you carry. A person with real faith does not need to speak loudly or argue convincingly. They simply live rightly, and their presence alone is enough to be felt. Some may say you are naive. idealistic, or unrealistic. But that's only because they've never seen someone hold faith long enough to turn the impossible into the undeniable. Most give up before the miracle has time to arrive, and so they conclude that life has no miracles. But the truth is, they simply lacked the patience to hold the state long enough, to plant deep enough, to believe deeply enough. Evidence does not create itself. It is a reflection of sustained belief. When you believe that you are worthy, you stop accepting things that violate that worth. When you believe there is a right path for you, you no longer rush into shortcuts. When you believe that wisdom and strength live within you, you begin to carry yourself differently, and that posture changes the way others treat you. Real faith is not easy. It asks you to stand alone. It asks you to keep going when no one is clapping. It asks you to remain silent through ridicule, and still hold the vision as clearly as when you began. And one day, the very people who once doubted you will have to question themselves. No one can give you true faith. Others may inspire it, awaken it, exemplify it. But faith is something you must choose daily. It does not come from the outside. It is born in the moment when you look at what no one else sees, and you say to yourself, "This is real." And then you live as if it is. Results never precede belief. If you keep waiting for results before you allow yourself to believe, you will stay trapped in the cycle of doubt. But if you are bold enough to believe first, to act as though what you desire is already waiting for you, you will begin to bend reality, and life will adjust to match the person you are becoming. Maybe you once believed and were disappointed. Maybe you've been betrayed, made mistakes, experienced loss. But that does not mean faith is weak. It only means you are learning how to place your faith where it truly belongs. And this time, you will not believe out of emotion, you will believe with the soul that has been matured through trial. The evidence will come, but it will not come early just to ease your worry. It will arrive at the right time to affirm that you are always worthy. And you only need to do one thing: do not betray what you already know to be true. Do not withdraw from yourself just because the present does not yet resemble the vision you've held. Every strong reality needs someone to believe first. And today, if you are strong enough to be that person, you will see what others cannot see. And when it becomes real, you will understand faith is not the result of evidence. It is the cause that produces it. Total commitment is the breaking point. The turning point of any transformation is not found in the thrill of beginning. It is found in the moment you no longer allow yourself to turn back. When you seal every exit, you are forced to move forward, and that is when true inner power awakens. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they always leave one door open to escape. They act with half a heart, hold on to half a doubt, so that if things don't go as expected, they still have an excuse. But real commitment doesn't work that way. It has no space for half efforts. It makes no room for distraction. It forces you to choose yourself again in every action, every thought, every single breath. A person who is truly committed no longer asks whether the path is easy. They don't ask whether others will support them or whether anyone will understand. They act because not acting is no longer an option. And from what looked like a wall, they find a door. From what seemed like a dead end, they carve a path no one had imagined. Because they are not searching for ease, they are aligned with what is right. And from that choice, they begin to redefine their entire life. Total commitment is the kind of energy the universe must respond to. It does not come from passive effort. It comes from the posture of, "I am the one who will make this happen even if that means unlearning everything, transforming completely, and facing every fear that has ever delayed me." And when you're in that state, you are no longer waiting for inspiration. You don't wait for permission. You act from a place deeper than motivation. You act from the soul. This is the power of voice within. Not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. It is the place where you no longer need reminders to keep going, because the silence within has become your strongest call. You are no longer swayed by outside promises, because you've found an inner center that cannot be shaken. Every action you take from there carries a unique weight, because it is not random. It is the fruit of a deep commitment to the self you are becoming. Total commitment is not blind recklessness. It is the result of clarity, born from seeing the path and accepting the cost to walk it to the end. You no longer hope the journey will be smooth. You only hope your heart remains strong enough to hold the vision when reality tests it. And that state makes you unstoppable. Not because you never fall, but because you never retreat from the mission you've chosen. Life doesn't change because you want it to. Life changes because you have become someone who has no other option but to succeed. When you burn the boats and know you either conquer or dissolve, you move into life with a force no one can replicate. And doors begin to open not because the world has changed, but because you have changed your position within your own frame of reference. Absolute commitment leaves no room for complaint. The committed person does not ask when the reward will come. They only ask, "What haven't I done today?" They do not compare themselves to others, because they know that each person carries a unique promise to life. And if you hold that promise long enough, deep enough, real enough, then the world itself will make way for your persistence. From the moment you commit with no way out, everything you say begins to carry weight. Everything you think becomes more coherent. Everything you do begins to inspire others. Because people are not persuaded by flowery words, they are moved by the presence of a human being who has decided, there is no turning back. I will live by what I believe is true until it becomes real or I no longer walk this earth. You don't need to be certain about every detail. You only need to be certain of one thing. I will not betray myself again. I will not negotiate with laziness, make excuses for fear, or let circumstance define my limits. And you live that way. No need to declare it. No need to be recognized. Just walk step by step as though there is no other way. It is that kind of radical commitment that rewrites destiny. Not because the world favors the brave, but because only the brave carry enough force to break the old patterns of life. And if you're still waiting for a sign today, know this: there is no sign greater than the certainty within you. The moment you dare to corner yourself into a place with no way back, you will access a strength you have never touched before. That is the breaking point. And from there, everything begins to shift. Visualize as if it has already happened. You don't need external confirmation. You don't need physical evidence. You can still see what you believe to be true, not with your physical eyes, but with your inner vision, where you connect to what has not yet appeared but already exists as a living potential. Visualization is not wishful thinking. It is the act of shaping reality from the deepest layers of the mind. You are not daydreaming for pleasure. You are sending signals to your entire system of thought, emotion, and behavior that this is happening. And the mind, like a mirror, reflects back exactly what you consistently hold within. Those who don't understand the power of visualization often dismiss it as unrealistic. But the truth is, no real transformation in human life happens without being visualized first. No building is constructed without first existing in the architect's mind. No symphony is written unless the composer hears the melody before writing the notes. And no life ever ascends without a clear inner image of the life one intends to live. You cannot live beyond the image you hold of yourself. If you still see someone small, limited, or unworthy, then every action you take will serve only to confirm that image. But if you begin to visualize yourself as powerful, wise, and inspired, your mind will naturally begin to shape your behavior to match that image. Every belief, every choice, every reaction will change simply because you've changed the blueprint. Visualization is not idle daydreaming. It is conscious programming. When you close your eyes and feel as though what you desire is already fully present, you are training your body, your brain, and your heart with a new reflex. You are creating a version so vivid that the subconscious cannot tell the difference between imagination and reality. And when the subconscious accepts it as real, it mobilizes every internal resource to make it happen externally. This is not empty theory. This is the principle of how the mind operates. The brain does not respond to what's happening outside. It responds to the signals you feed it. If you constantly visualize failure, rejection, abandonment, or being underestimated, then even if none of it has happened yet, your nervous system will begin reacting as though it has. You will hesitate, grow anxious, shrink back, and ultimately behave in ways that bring about the very outcome you feared. But if you visualize success, clarity, welcome, strength, your body mirrors that state. And then you begin making bolder decisions, speaking with more authority, showing up with greater presence. And the results follow. You don't need the perfect moment to begin visualizing. You only need a quiet space, a ready mind, and a heart brave enough to believe. Start with a few minutes each day. Close your eyes, not to wander aimlessly, but to guide your mind toward the image you choose. Don't narrate. Don't analyze. Just feel. Feel as though you are already living it. You are smiling in the joy of achievement. You are walking with the confidence of realized vision. You are giving thanks for a miracle that has already arrived. Let that state soak into you like morning sunlight. Let it reshape the way you see yourself. Don't doubt. Don't over-explain. Because visualization doesn't operate in the rational layer, it works deeper. It requires repetition, steadiness, and trust held long enough to form a new foundation for reality. Each time you visualize, you place an invisible brick into the structure of your life, and in time, what you see around you will no longer be random. It will be the mirror of what you've long been living with inside. The people you meet, the doors that open, the opportunities that arise, they will all be the natural consequence of what you've believed, seen, and felt before it ever happened. Remember, visualization is not an escape from the present. It is the conscious shaping of the future. You're not denying reality. You are choosing your next reality. And the miracle is this: when you live with the right image, you begin to act rightly, speak with alignment, and carry the right energy. And from that space, you live as if it has already happened. And then it does. Because nothing is more powerful than a person living ahead of the future they believe in. No one can argue with someone who has already seen their success in the mind's eye. And nothing can stop you if you are willing to return day after day to the vision your soul has drawn. That is not just a dream. It is your design for this life, and you are the only one with the authority to hold that vision until the very end. The invisible language of presence. Have you ever walked into a room and said nothing? Yet others could immediately feel your energy? Not because you dressed to stand out, not because you asserted authority, but because your presence spoke louder than any words. This is a form of invisible language, needing no translation, no explanation, yet profoundly shaping how others perceive you and how the world responds to you. Presence is not about where you are. It is about how you are there. Some people speak very little, yet every action carries weight. Some never argue, yet each glance radiates unshakable certainty. Why? Because they have cultivated a state from which their energy becomes their truest form of communication. They no longer need to prove who they are because their peace, their clarity, and their conviction speak on their behalf with every step they take. Your body speaks to the world every single day, whether you realize it or not. Your posture, your breath, your eyes, your hands, the way you walk, the way you sit, every gesture is a message that other people's subconscious minds are constantly receiving. But more importantly, you are also receiving those signals from yourself. If you walk like someone wounded, you'll feel more fragile. But if you begin to walk as someone healed, the world will start reflecting that back to you. Not everyone understands this invisible language. But those who touch it never live the same again. They begin to see that instead of searching for words to define themselves, they can simply return to what is radiating from within. And when that energy is pure, strong, and consistent, they no longer have to fight for attention because their presence speaks for them. So what about you? Are you truly present, or merely existing like a shadow in a noisy world? Are you radiating clear energy, or are you being swept up in the chaos of those around you? Take a moment. Let me ask you this, not with logic, but with honesty. If you could not say a single word, would your presence still carry your value for others to feel? That question is not to judge, but to help you listen to yourself. Because in a world that worships noise, deep silence has become the most powerful language. When you no longer need to argue, no longer need to stand out, and still command respect, you've come to understand the power of presence. And the beautiful truth is, anyone can develop this if they are patient enough to tune their internal frequency. No one is born with powerful presence. It is forged through the choices you make every day. You choose clarity over chaos. You choose calm over panic. You choose to listen instead of react. And every time you make such a choice, your energy becomes sharper, more tangible, more grounded. You no longer have to try hard to express yourself because you are now aligned with the state of someone who knows who they are. This is not just a presence. This is the power of voice within. Not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. When you dwell in that state, you don't need many words to change the atmosphere. You show up, and that is enough. Others begin to shift their tone, their posture, their energy around you, not because you asked them to, but because you've created a silent standard. And in a world where everyone is searching for guidance, your quiet presence may become the light others return to. To live this way is not easy. It requires cleansing the internal noise, not by denying your emotions, but by facing and dissolving them. Every time you forgive, every time you stop justifying, every time you choose truth over defense, you are clearing your energetic space. And that is the space others feel long before they ever learn your name. If you are still searching for recognition from the outside, understand that what you need is not others' attention, but your own inner light that has long been covered in dust. Go back and clean that mirror. Take the time to reset your internal state. No one can do it for you. But when you do, you will know the feeling of walking into life without the need to introduce yourself, because your presence has already spoken on your behalf. And if you're still reading this, I want to thank you, not just for your time, but for truly being here with me. In a world rushing to react, you have chosen to pause and listen. That is the mark of someone retraining themselves from the inside out. And I believe if you can hold this state in everything you do, you will no longer need to chase success, because you will have become the invitation that success cannot refuse. The outer reflects the inner. The law of reflection. Everything you see on the outside is not the cause, it is the result. Every person, situation, and circumstance that appears in your life is a physical expression of something that was once planted within. This is the foundational principle of the law of reflection. You are not living in an objective world, as you may believe. You are living inside a vast mirror, where every vibration within your mind finds a matching response from life itself. This doesn't mean you need to blame yourself for unwanted experiences. It simply means you hold the power to change anything if you are courageous enough to look inward and adjust it at the root. The world is not against you. It is only responding to you neutrally. If you emit lack, life will deliver situations that confirm that lack. If you emit fullness, the environment around you begins to shift automatically to match that frequency. This is not just a belief, it is a sophisticated mechanism few are taught from an early age. Whenever you find yourself in a cycle of negativity, don't rush to blame the circumstances. Pause and ask, What within me has allowed this to repeat? What image of myself am I holding in the subconscious that keeps attracting the same outcomes? Observe not to punish, but to illuminate. Because only when you uncover the inner cause can you truly change the outer effect. Otherwise, you're just trimming the branches while the root remains intact. Some wonder why, despite all their efforts, nothing seems to move forward. They work hard, set clear goals, take action consistently, yet their results don't align. That's because, while the outer actions aim for success, the inner emotional programming is still rooted in fear of failure. And that fear, even when cleverly hidden, emits a vibration that makes every action conflicted and ineffective. Action without the right frequency is not creation, it's energy leakage. What you need is not to do more, but to align what's within so that it reflects what you truly desire to experience. Think back to the last time you genuinely felt peace and strength inside. Did you notice how everything around you seemed to flow better? Conversations became easier. Challenges suddenly had solutions. That's when your inner world became a clear stream, and life simply mirrored that clarity. This is why no transformation can last if it doesn't begin at the level of consciousness. You can change your job, your partner, your surroundings, but if your internal fears and outdated patterns remain, the new will eventually recreate the old. Because what draws everything to you is not your words or actions, but the core vibration you emit every day. So, if you want to change anything, don't start from the outside in. Start from the inside out. Ask yourself again, what do I believe to be true about myself? How do I treat myself in the silent corners of my own mind? Do I see myself as worthy, or am I still trying to prove my worth through achievement and external approval? And if the answers don't make you feel safe, know this: you can change them. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need the perfect timing. You only need to choose a new frequency from which to live. The law of reflection neither rewards nor punishes. It is simple, fair, and utterly precise. It returns to you exactly what you send out, not sooner, not later. When you understand this, you stop feeling like a victim. You begin to live as a conscious creator. You stop blaming. You stop comparing. You stop placing blind hope outside of yourself. Instead, you turn inward, refining, realigning, restoring. And from there, the outer world shifts as a natural consequence. You cannot control other people, circumstances, the weather, or the market, but you can always control your internal state. And it is that state that determines what you reflect into the world. So, if you want a peaceful life, make your inner current peaceful first. If you want to meet people of depth, become someone of depth first. If you want the world to be gentler, learn to be gentle with yourself first. This is not mere philosophy. It is the mechanism that forms reality. And you, in every moment, have the power to choose what you radiate. You don't have to change everything all at once. You only need to shift the way you see yourself, the way you honor the value you truly carry. When that changes, you'll realize it's not the world that has transformed. It's that you've finally seen your true reflection in the mirror of life. Your self-image is the true limit. Everything you do, every ceiling you hit, every dream you dare or fail to pursue stems from one invisible yet immensely powerful construct called your self-image. It is not who you truly are. It is who you believe yourself to be. And the irony is, the world is not the one limiting you. It is this image that silently draws the boundaries you never cross, even when nothing outside is actually stopping you. You may be talented, capable, filled with big dreams and even big opportunities. But if deep down you still see yourself as inadequate, undeserving, or not enough, then every action you take will be unconsciously governed by that inner framework. You will sabotage your own path without realizing it. You'll pull back right before receiving something good. You'll feel uncomfortable with respect. You'll reject opportunities simply because they don't match the image you've been living with. Not because you don't want success, but because you don't see yourself as someone who can hold it. Every self-help method becomes useless if you don't reach this deeper layer. You can read hundreds of books, listen to thousands of lectures, write out dozens of goals, but if your self-image is not adjusted, everything you do is just effort spent in conflict with a pre-programmed system. And that system always wins. Because it is what you carry with you every moment of daily life, even when no words are spoken. People with low self-images tend to choose the wrong relationships, the wrong opportunities, and the wrong way of responding to challenges. They see themselves as small, so they attract those who dominate. They believe they lack value, so they reject what is good. They think life is always hard, so the subconscious continually leads them into struggle. And they don't realize that they are selecting the same life over and over, simply because they've never challenged the internal mold they've been living by. To change your life deeply and lastingly, you must change your self-image. But that doesn't happen through robotic repetition of positive affirmations. It happens when you begin to live differently, when you behave as though you've already become the version of you that you dream of, when you make choices as though you already own the life you long for. And with every moment like that, you are bending old limits, expanding your comfort zone, and redefining yourself in practical terms. When you change your self-image, you no longer have to force things. The world begins to respond to you in a new way. People who no longer align will fall away. Opportunities that used to pass you by begin to show up. You no longer fight for space because you have established a solid space within. And that space carries its own frequency, drawing the right things to you naturally, not because you've manipulated the environment, but because you've changed at the root. You don't need to become someone else. You simply need to return to the whole version of you that you once forgot. A version not defined by wounds, judgments, or limitations others placed on you when you were too young to resist. That version is still there, waiting for you to brush off the dust of false beliefs and uncover the truth. And the truth is, you don't need to earn your worth. You already are worthy. The only thing you must do is stop living as if you are not. All outer realities don't reflect what you want, they reflect what you believe you are. Changing beliefs without changing your self-image is impossible. Because the self-image is the very core from which all beliefs, emotions, and behaviors arise. So don't ask why you haven't succeeded yet. Ask instead, does the image I hold of myself align with success? And if not, begin there. This is the power of voice within. Not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. Whenever you face doubt, return to that space. Whenever you feel small, return to that space. Whenever you're tempted to overextend just to be seen, remember, no one can make you valuable until you see yourself that way. And once you do see it, the world cannot help but reflect it back. True transformation never comes from the outside. It comes from a quiet moment within, where you decide to no longer live the old way. You don't try to become, you simply strip away what is not you. Every time you choose what's right, even when it's unfamiliar, every time you stand on your own instead of waiting for rescue. Every time you refuse to act out your old, diminished image, you are rewriting the definition of yourself. And once that image is solidified, nothing can stop you. Not circumstances, not people, not old memories. Because when you see yourself as light, you stop searching for a flashlight. You become the source of illumination. Success does not come from waiting, but from identity transformation. Success is never a gift that falls from the sky. It is not a reward for those who wait long enough, or for those who are merely patient or lucky. Success is the inevitable response when your inner identity transforms. When you are no longer the same person, the outer world can no longer treat you the same. And in that very moment, you no longer chase success because it begins to find you. Every action you take, every decision you make, Every limit you encounter stems from the image you hold of yourself. You don't act according to your desires. You act according to your identity. If you desire success, but your inner identity is still rooted in fear, self-doubt, and avoidance, then your behavior will quietly lead you back to where you started. Deep within your subconscious, you still don't truly believe you belong to that new version of life. You don't need to try to succeed. You need to become the kind of person to whom success naturally flows. And that process is not external, it is internal. When you change your thinking, your language, and your presence, you are step by step rewriting your identity. And eventually, you no longer need to announce or prove anything. You simply live as though it were already true because for you, it is. Identity is not created in a fleeting emotional moment. It is formed through repeated daily choices. Each time you wake up early with no one forcing you, each time you follow through on a commitment with no applause, each time you stay disciplined, even without praise, you are rebuilding your inner identity. And the world does not respond to what you say. It responds to who you are. If you feel stuck between desire and reality, it's not because you haven't worked hard enough. It's because you haven't yet changed the way you see yourself. You can create a long list of goals, but if deep down you are still someone who fears rejection, who fears failure, who needs validation from others, then your subconscious will quietly delay your progress. The old identity always pulls you back to your comfort zone, even when your words say you want to leave it. True transformation does not happen when you get something. It happens when you no longer need to get it in order to feel worthy. You don't chase success from lack. You attract it from wholeness. Identity transformation is quiet, not boastful, but it creates the loudest ripple because it changes how you show up, how you see the world, and how the world sees you. Those who have not yet transformed their identity live in cycles starting and quitting. Excitement followed by burnout. Dreaming followed by discouragement. But those who have changed their identity no longer operate from motivation. They live by principle. No one needs to push them. They act anyway. They don't need perfect conditions. They move forward regardless. Because their actions don't come from fleeting emotion, but from a nature that is now firmly rooted. You cannot fake identity. You can say you are disciplined, successful, influential, but if your daily behavior reflects the old self, your subconscious won't believe you. And the subconscious is where all decisions are made. So instead of straining to change your life, begin by changing your identity. Ask yourself honestly, if I already were the person I want to become, what would I do differently today? That answer is your doorway. And if you are brave enough to walk through it, to do what your new self would do, even before the results appear, then every step you take ties you closer to your new identity. You don't need permission. You don't need recognition up front. You don't need immediate proof. You only need to live consistently with your new essence and let results come not as rewards, but as consequences. When your identity changes, you no longer say, I want to be successful. You are a successful person, living out your journey. You don't say, I will be disciplined. You are disciplined. You don't say, I'm trying. You simply act, and that action becomes your breath, your natural way of being, because it is who you are, not something you force, but something you embody. There is no greater formula for lasting transformation than the transformation of identity. Every prayer, every visualization, every step forward, if not aligned with the right identity, will be quietly undermined by your own inner inconsistency. But when identity is firmly set, even if the outside world shakes, the core within remains steady. And from that steadiness, you are no longer someone searching for success. You are someone who carries success with every step you take. Action is the bridge between the inner world and reality. Without action, all understanding is merely theory. Without action, every dream remains a fantasy. Without action, Even the deepest desires within you are but echoes with no reply. Action is not merely the result of thought. It is the only bridge between the inner world and physical reality. It is how the soul expresses itself in form. It is how ideas become matter. It is how the divine within you steps out into the world and leaves its mark. You may have read hundreds of books, listened to thousands of talks, and contemplated countless profound principles. But without consistent action, it all becomes nothing more than a beautiful wall of knowledge with no doorway into practice. The world does not ask how much you know. It only responds to what you do. Everything you are living today is the result of past actions or inactions. And the actions you take today are the seeds of the future you long for. Action is the most honest test of faith. You may say you believe in success, but if each day you procrastinate, retreat in the face of challenges, or choose comfort over the unknown, then your subconscious understands that belief has not yet matured into truth. Action is a language that cannot be faked. It reveals who you are without the need for explanation. You do not need to wait for inspiration to begin. Inspiration often follows action, not the other way around. Successful people are not always ready, but they are always willing to act, even when it's imperfect, because they understand that every step is a declaration to the universe that you are ready to receive a corresponding result. Action generates momentum. Momentum builds confidence, and confidence leads to inner strength. No one is born strong. They become strong through action. Action is also the only antidote to fear. The more you think, the more you analyze, the bigger fear becomes. But when you begin, when you take even the smallest step, you reclaim the reins from your mind. You don't need to see the whole path. You just need to take one step. And then the next step will appear. With each step, you'll realize that most barriers were never real walls, but the fog of your own mind. You don't need grand gestures. A small habit each day, a conscious choice each morning, a timely refusal, a step beyond the familiar, all of these are actions. And these smallest things, when repeated, will alter your entire identity and life trajectory. You don't change your destiny through wishful thinking. You change it through specific, quiet decisions carried out in stillness. You don't need an audience. Action needs no stage. The steps you take in silence often shape who you become. And one day, the result of those quiet actions will speak so loudly that no one can ignore it. Action is the most truthful voice of your soul. It is how you show the world who you are without a single word. And if you've come this far, let me offer you my deepest gratitude. Thank you for listening not just with your ears, but with your full presence. Thank you for walking this journey back to your strong, wise, and whole essence. This path isn't easy, but you are never alone. Every action you choose today will not only shift your own outcome, it will become a quiet light guiding someone else who is still searching. Remember this, everything you felt along this journey will only become real when you begin to act. Act as if you are already the person you long to become. Act as if what you've been hoping for is already unfolding. Act as if there is no way back, as if you were chosen to live this life with purpose and meaning, because that is the truth. Action is where theory becomes reality, where potential becomes outcome, where the inner world meets the material one. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait for permission. Don't feed another day to doubt and hesitation. You don't act just to get something. You act to become someone. And from that person, everything changes. This is the power of voice within. Not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. A space where you remember the truth about who you are. Where action no longer comes from pressure, but from deep resonance with the soul. And if you've heard that voice, please begin, because your action will become the next voice for someone else. I'll see you on the journeys ahead. Don't stop. Don't wait. Rise, and let your steps become the most vivid declaration of all, not to the world, but to yourself. Because you deserve a life not just worth remembering, but worth living.